Hello, my lovelies. It's time for my July wrap-up vlog, so stay tuned. So it is July 1st, and I've already completed one book. I read Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin, and this was an interesting book, and I don't really know 100% how the best way to go about describing it. So for one, I read this because of Kayla over at Books and Lala. I watched a vlog where she read it and was like, okay, that sounds kind of creepy, but also kind of cool. And so I wanted to check it out. So there are these toys. In my mind, I'm picturing things kind of like the Furby toys that people are getting. And one person has the toy. They're the keeper, I think is what they're called. And I forget what the other one's called the Dweller. So one person with the toy is the keeper. Another person on the other side of the planet has a tablet with a code or whatever. They are the Dweller. So they control this toy. They can see through its eyes with cameras. They're not able to speak. They're only able to just kind of move around, look around, flap their wings if they've got wings, roll around the floor, things like that. And for some people, it's a sweet relationship of like a pet and a caretaker. Sometimes the toy will like help with little things like gardening or whatever, you know, just kind of checking on things, whatever, or children or whatever. But there's a lot of things that get really dark. It starts out with some girls showing themselves and then trying to get the person that's on the other end, the Dweller, trying to get them to blackmail some girl, and instead they get blackmailed. And there's pedophiles that end up using this, and somebody gets saved from using this because the toy discovers something wrong that's going on and helps somebody. It's really interesting because at times it's like, oh, I want one of those, and then at other times I'm like, no, I would not want one of those, and that's creepy. And you don't know who you're going to get connected to. It's supposed to be completely anonymous. However, some people do find ways of trying to communicate with the other person, either giving them an email address or something like that, and being able to like use a Ouija board to answer questions and stuff like that. It was an interesting story, and I'm actually going to give it 4 stars. So it is July 7th, and I have completed one more book. I read Love at First Book by Jen McKinley, and I have to say I give this book 5 stars. It was so good. So first off, it's set in Ireland, and our main character, she's trying to get away from her very manipulative, mean mother and have an adventure and get to experience something new and go somewhere new. And she has been working as a librarian, and now she has the opportunity to assist an author that has been had a huge impact on her life, and so she's getting to work with this author part-time, and then also work in this bookstore part-time, and she's getting to stay in this cute little cottage. And it just so happens the owner of the bookstore is the son of this author, and they clash right off the bat. But it ends up being a super cute hate to love romance. But there's like some big issues in here that I can't really say without spoiling it, but there's some sad things. And I will say, little side note story time. So I was listening to this in my car while I was out doing DoorDash, and there's this part in the book that had me sobbing, like ugly cry, just sobbing in my car. And I had somebody's food, and I was on my way to deliver their food, And I'm like, okay, I gotta calm myself down. I'm trying to, I'm focusing on breathing and just trying to stop the tears. And I'm focused on that and not my speed. And I got pulled over. And I got a speeding ticket. And the cop, I don't think he noticed that I had been crying when he first, took my driver's license and everything. But when he came back with my ticket, I was still my eyes are all red. I'm still doing all the sniffling and stuff. And he thought I was all upset about the ticket. I was like, no, it's not that. But yeah, this book had me just uncontrollably crying, and to the point that I got a speeding ticket. So I don't recommend listening to this while driving, okay? But it was fantastic, super cute, but also super emotional. You're gonna get so invested in these characters, and yeah, you're just gonna love them all. And I gave it 5 stars. So it is July 12th, and I have completed 4 more books. So the first thing I completed was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I very much enjoyed it. So our main character, she is a professional bodyguard, and she's really good at what she does. And most people wouldn't think she's a bodyguard because she's small, petite, doesn't seem intimidating at all, but she is. And it starts out with, she is an absolute mess, hot mess, hair a disaster, keeps sobbing uncontrollably. It starts out with her being just a complete mess. It's the day after she's buried her mother, and all she wants to do is get back to work and try to kind of escape all of her thoughts and feelings and everything. And her boss is like, no, you need to take time off, and gives a job that she was going to be doing with her boyfriend to her best friend. And they go off to Madrid, and before they go, boyfriend breaks up with her. And she's like, really? The day after I bury my mom, you're breaking up with me? And yeah, he's like, no, we never really liked each other that much anyway. Rude. And this big job opportunity is also coming up where one person is going to get to go to London and do this big job that's going to take a year or something like that. And her boyfriend, or now ex-boyfriend, are the top candidates for this position. And so it's kind of like a battle to see who's going to get it. She works really hard, doing everything her boss wants her to, staying where she's supposed to, taking the time off she's supposed to, just all of that. Because she wants this position. And then this job comes up, and she's just like, yes, I'm ready for it. It's a big one that she's saying she's going to get to leave and go somewhere. And it's there in Texas, which she's just really don't want to stay in Texas. And it just so happens that it is a big time, super hunky movie star guy. And again, she's like, I don't want to do it. But she does it anyway. And then, in order to keep it discreet, she's supposed to pose as his girlfriend, which, yeah, it gets very confusing very quickly. It's so much fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, so the next book that I read, or I should say the next 2 books that I read, were Arch Enemies and Supernova by Marissa Meyer. So I knew I needed to read Supernova, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I read Arch Enemies, but it was a long time ago, and I don't really remember much about it. I remember Renegades pretty well, but I couldn't remember Arch Enemies. So I was like, I'll listen to that. And I very quickly realized I don't think I ever actually read Arch Enemies. So I'm glad I had decided to do that. I love every single thing that Marissa Meyer writes. She is definitely an auto-buy author. She's fantastic. I am not big on like the superhero stuff. Yeah, I'll watch some of the like Avengers movies and stuff, but I'm not like super big on it. I really don't care either way. But this series is so fantastic. So can't tell you too much about Arch Enemies or Supernova because they are the second and third in a trilogy. Renegades is the first book, and in that you have Nova, who her family was killed by this gang, and she expected the Renegades to come and help, and they never showed up to help, and she watched her whole family get murdered. And then she was taken in by her uncle, Ace, and he is the leader of the anarchists, which is like the villains to the Renegades, pretty much. And her ability is to put people to sleep. So she's Nightmare with the anarchists. That's her name. And they want her to infiltrate the Renegades and go through their training and all of that stuff. And she goes to that as Insomnia, a girl who never has to sleep. And she's to work as a spy because they want to bring down the Renegades whatever way they can. The whole series, I think I give every book in that series 5 stars. It's fantastic. And then the next book that I completed was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And as I was listening to this, I was 95% sure that I was going to be giving this one 4 stars. I was very much enjoying it. It's nice and spooky, and we have this scientist who has invited these 2 women that each have some kind of like slightly supernatural experience. Or he invited a lot of other people, but these 2 women responded. And then he also invited a member of the family of Hill House, a man named Luke, to all come and stay and observe and take notes for this summer at Hill House, because Hill House is haunted, and he wants kind of to be able to write a book about everything that goes on here. And it starts out pleasant, but very quickly turns creepy. And I was really, really, really enjoying it. And then it ended. And I'm like, what? That was the end? I was kind of disappointed by the end. I'm not going to lie. Because it just all happened so quick. And I'm like, I want to know what continues. I want to know what happens after she leaves. And, it tells you that at the end, but it's just like a couple of sentences. And I'm like, I felt like it should have been more. So I think I'm actually going to give this one a 3.5 in the end. I enjoyed it, but the ending kind of So last night I read Anne of Green Gables by, I think it's Lucy Maud Montgomery. And that was so sweet and so precious. It's about a little orphan girl named Anne who kind of gets accidentally adopted. So this older couple, they're like in their 60s, and they decided that they want to adopt a 10 or 11-year-old boy so that he can, as the husband is getting older and it's getting harder for him to do some of the farm work, he can have a son to help. And they want one that's 10 or 11 so he can jump right into it. And a friend of theirs, she is going to this orphanage in Nova Scotia. This whole thing sets place in Canada. Anyway, so her friend's going to Nova Scotia to pick herself up a daughter. She wants a little girl. And they ask her, hey, while you're there, can you get us a boy 10 to 11 years old? And somehow there's some confusion. And when they go to pick up their new boy from the train station, it's not a boy, it's Anne. And Anne is quite the character. She's so sweet and such a little chatterbox, and it was actually quite fun to listen to. And though they're both, expecting a boy, wanting a boy, not wanting a girl at all, and considering sending her back, she very quickly worms her way into their heart, and they can't part with her. And the story is just her over the next few years growing up and learning and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And it's all just so freaking precious, and I loved it, and I'm going to give it 5 stars. So it is July 14th, and I have completed one more book. I finished a reread of Holx the Hunt for Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend, and I believe I gave this 5 stars the last time I read it. I'm giving it 5 stars again. Morgan Crow was a cursed child and deemed to be, she had to be, die on a certain day, and she was taken at the last minute to Nevermore, and it's magical abilities and all of this stuff, and it's awesome series. It's so much fun. And in this particular one, they have these Wonimals. All the animals, there's animals and there's Wondimals. The Wondimals are talking, and they're animals that are have human characteristics, they can talk and they can dress and they can perform plays and design clothes and all kinds of stuff. And in this one they get something called a Holopox, which is turning them into animals and not Wondimals. And Morgan's trying to figure out how to save everybody. And yeah, so I give that 5 stars. On to something else. It's July 14th, and I have completed one more book. I completed Blended by Sharon M. Draper. I'm going to give this one 5 stars. It had me sobbing. Even the author's acknowledgments, thanks at the end, had me sobbing. So this is about a girl. She's 11 years old. She's dealing with her mom is white, her dad is black, and she's just where do I fit? And then she's having to deal with her parents getting divorced, and then eventually her parents being with other people, starting families with these other people, getting married, all of this stuff, and the going back and forth between the two parents and the tensions between the parents and all of that. And there's also a lot of racial issues addressed in here, and it was fantastic, and I give it 5 stars. So it is still Sunday, July 14th, and I have completed one more book. I finished The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas, and I'm going to give that one 3 stars. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I was just okay for me. It follows 2 boys. Jake Livingston, who is a black gay medium. He sees ghosts. He sees a lot of their last moments relived on a loop. Sometimes he can talk to the ghosts, sometimes he can't. And then there's Sawyer, who is currently a ghost, but it goes back and forth between Jake and Sawyer, and we see what happened, what led up to Sawyer being a ghost. And he was a very troubled gay boy who was bullied and depressed, and eventually tried to take his own life, and he failed. And when he came home from the hospital, things didn't get any better, and nobody was really helping him with what he needed. Things got worse, and eventually some big thing happened which caused him to snap, and he ended up taking a gun to a school and shot up the school. And now his ghost is almost haunting Jake, and this Sawyer's ghost has somehow managed to kill Jake's neighbor, Mateo, and Jake is trying to figure out a way to stop Sawyer. And like I said, it was just okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It just was. It is still July 14th, and I've completed another book. I finished the graphic novel of Buffy 97, and I didn't like it. I wasn't sure. I thought this was going to be like on the original, but apparently this is the rebooted version. And I really was not a fan. I think it's kind of terrible. The first one is Buffy and Willow getting stuck in a 90s fashion magazine, and hence the Buffy 97. There's also Tara and Willow in here, and like their whole beginning stuff. And I freaking love Tara and Willow in the original. I don't like them in this. I think they're self-centered and kind of jerks. Yeah, and so I'm just... Also, Giles and Spike going bowling together, and I just, like, there was so much in here that I just did not like. I'm giving it 2 stars, and I'm going to unhaul it. So it is still July 14th, and I have completed another book. That was The Toll by Neil Shusterman. And no, I did not read this all today. We just finished it today. So Marty and I have been reading this series together. We've given every book in this series 5 stars. The series as a whole is 5 stars. It's just freaking fantastic. The Toll is the 3rd and final book, well, sort of final book in the Scythe series, and I can't tell you much about it because it is the finale, but it's so freaking good. This whole series is amazing. If you don't know Scythe, that's book 1. In this world, death is no longer, something that happens naturally anymore. People can pretty much live infinitely. There's nanites that keep you well at all times. There's revival centers for if you do get dead-ish, you can be revived. And there's no more illnesses or anything like that anymore. And so in order to control the population, they have scythes that choose to glean certain people in order to, keep the numbers. Anyway, it's supposed to be kind of done randomly or through a system or whatever. Nobody's actually targeted or anything like that. But then, of course, with power comes power-hungry people. And some scythes are enjoying this way too much, and they go crazy with the power, and yeah. The series is so fantastic. Neil Shusterman is definitely an auto-buy author for me, and I'm sad that it ended. Though I am happy that I have Gleanings to read at some point as well. 5 stars. So it is Thursday, July 18th, and I've completed one more book. I finished A Reaper at the Gates by Sabata here. Marty and I were listening to this, and we had read a spoilery summary of book 2 to remind ourselves, and we fully remembered when reading that what all happened in book 2. And then book 3, really just for the first half, well, at least the first third, I had lost all interest in it because I just wasn't invested at all, and nothing was really happening. It was a lot of politics and a lot of just nothing really happening. And Marty, I was ready to DNF the whole series at that point. And Marty was like, I'm just keep holding out hope that something will happen. And eventually, halfway through, it did pick up a lot. And Elias, he's learning his position as soul catcher. Laia, I don't really know what Laia is kind of doing throughout. Just a lot of stuff. A lot of this and that. We learn more about her past, or at least more about her mother's past in this. The real lead, I think, in this particular book was Helene, the Blood Strike, and trying to make sure her sister is okay. And yeah, I think for this one, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I'm interested enough to read the last book, but I really just didn't super care enough, you know? So this will probably be unhauled once we finish the series. Oh, also, the next time you see me, my hair is going to be so different because tonight I am dyeing it. So don't be surprised if I look different in the next clip. So as I mentioned in my last clip, I'm coming back with very different hair. Also, I have finished another book. It is July 19th, and I finished Dry by Neil Shusterman. I think I'm going to give this one 5 stars as well. And I would recommend anybody else that reads this or listens to this to have something to drink on hand, because it's going to make you thirsty. Like, you're going to feel parched reading this book, because it's about, well, it's set in Southern California, and the reservoirs have run dry. Rivers have been cut off from California. They're in this major drought. The government has now turned the taps off on the residents, and people start, well, they kind of turn into water zombies, and they are desperate for any kind of water and will do anything to get it. And people are dying all over the place because of dehydration or just the fact that people get insane. And it's really just about these kids trying to survive this, and it was something. It was wow, what people would do. It was definitely a modern day apocalypse that could actually happen. 5 stars. It is Sunday, July 28th, and I have completed 4 more books. So a couple of days ago, I actually finished Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. I don't know why this book was getting so much hate. Like, I didn't have a problem with it. I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars. So, Ready Player 1 is about this game developer. He put these Easter eggs in his game, sort of a puzzle to be solved. And the person that solves this puzzle will inherit the Oasis, which is the video game virtual reality thing, as well as the game developer's fortune. And in this one, there's a sort of a glitch in the Oasis that allows an AI character to kind of take over things. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm going to give it 4 stars. Yesterday, I finished Prosperous Demon by K.J. Parker. This is pretty short. It's about the main character is a monk who pretty much goes around getting demons out of people. These demons, they can't be killed. They never die. They just can be removed from one human and will end up in another. And these monks, that's their job, is to just keep taking them out. Yeah, that's pretty much what this whole thing is about. It was okay. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's got one heck of an opening line, though. The opening line is, I woke up to find her lying next to me, quite dead, with her throat torn out. Yesterday, I started and finished Hidden Pictures by Jason Ruckolach, and 5 stars. This book is so good. So good. So, in this, our main character, she is early 20s, college age, but she hasn't gone to college because of a drug problem. She's been in rehab for the past 18 months, getting clean, and now she's wanting to take the next step in her life, and she gets a job as a nanny caring for this little boy named Teddy, and his parents have some some kind of strict rules about certain things, but nothing too unreasonable. And Mallory, the nanny, she lives in this cute little cabin or cottage or whatever you want to call it in the backyard. But weird things start to happen, and Mallory thinks maybe this place is haunted. And then Teddy is drawing these pictures that get more and more detailed and disturbing, and she thinks maybe Teddy is possessed. And it was so good. So freaking good. And I was reading this during a 24 and 48, which I'm still currently in a 24 and 48 with my coffee patrons, and I'm live for the whole time, and so I got to see my reactions as I was reading it. There was a lot of jaw-dropping moments, and yeah, this book blew me away, and there was so much I did not see coming. 5 stars. Also yesterday I started and finished The Wrong Kind of Weird by James Ramos. We have Cameron, who over the summer he started hooking up, making out with the it girl of school. But now it's time to go back to school, and they pretty much have to ignore each other because his friend group hates her friend group, and she is not okay with people seeing her with him. And then we have Mercedes, who is part of his friend group, that he's always thought that they hated each other, but maybe that's not the case. And this was cute. I enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to give this one a 3.5. So it is still Sunday, July 28th, and I've actually completed 2 more books. I started and finished these today. First is The Witches by Roald Dahl. I listened to the audiobook of this. I remember watching the movie for this long time ago and really enjoying it. And this, I remembered the whole movie throughout listening to this. I felt like I was watching the movie again. Though there are things in here that I don't recall being in the movie, but again, it's been a long time. I don't know that this is aged very well. So it's about witches, and they're like one goal, like the one thing they hate more than anything is children, and their goal is to rid the world of children. And you can tell a witch because she has square feet because she's got no toes and she's got no fingernails, and so she always wears gloves. She's bald, so she's always got to wear a wig. Yeah. But like the grandmother in this, she smokes cigars, and she tries to offer her grandson a puff on the cigar, and he's like, no, I can't smoke cigars. She's like, you smoke cigars and you'll never get sick or get a cold or something like that. Yeah, that would definitely not fly. It was fine. I'm going to just give it 3 stars. And then I think I started this yesterday but finished it today. And that's Starters by Lisa Price. This is the first book in a duology. And this is like a dystopian. It's set way in the future. There have been these spore wars that pretty much killed everybody between the ages of 20 to 60. Everybody younger than that and older than that were all vaccinated because they were considered to be, more vulnerable. And the people in the middle didn't get around to getting vaccinated, so they all got wiped out when the spore war happened. Now we're in this world where there's starters and enders, the young and the old. And the young people are not allowed to work until they reach the age of 19. And so they're not able to make any money. And a lot of children are left unclaimed. They're left as orphans, and because their parents have died from the spore wars and they had no grandparents around, and they're like living in abandoned buildings and things like that, or they're being rounded up like stray dogs. And our main character, Callie, she is on her own with her brother and a friend named Michael. And her brother Tyler is 7 years old, and he is not well. He's got a lung problem, and she's trying to keep him safe, and it's getting harder and harder to do. And then there is this company called Prime Destinations that young people are able to rent their bodies to. The way it works is you're connected with a renter and a donor. The starters are the donor bodies, and the renters are enders, older people that want to be able to do some of the things that they once could do when they were young, and they want to experience being young again. And so they can rent these bodies for a period of time. And Callie is not really big on the idea, but they kind of make her an offer she can't resist. She does 3 rentals, and then she gets this huge chunk of money, which will allow her and her brother to get a place to live and things like that. She agrees to do it, and the first rental is just a 1-day thing, just kind of see how it goes. All goes well, she immediately goes into the next rental, which is a 3-day thing. But then she finds out that the third rental is actually going to be for an entire month. And she's not thrilled about it, but she ends up agreeing to do it. The only thing is, after 1 week, she wakes up in a nightclub, and she's like, this isn't right. She's only supposed to wake up at Prime Destinations. She's not supposed to come to her body out in the real world. And it's also 3 weeks early. And she's got about a day before she blacks out. And then I guess she's gone back into her renter has taken back over. And then the next time she wakes up with a gun in her hand. So she's like, what is going on with my body when I'm not here? And I thought it was really interesting, and I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and I'm looking forward to reading Enders. So it is Wednesday, July 31st, and I have completed 2 more books. So the first thing I completed was The 13th Tale by Diana Setterfield. And this follows really 2 people. This kind of gives me a little bit of Evelyn Hugo vibes in that whole interviewing somebody and getting their story type thing. One of our main characters, Margaret Lee, I think she essentially is kind of the main character. She works in a bookshop with her father, and she doesn't really read anything contemporary. She pretty much sticks to dead authors, and she's taken to writing some small biographies on certain authors. And this super popular and contemporary author who's written like 60 books or something like that, named Vida Winter, reaches out to Margaret and wants Margaret to write her biography. And the majority of the story is learning Vida's story. And we're also getting Margaret's story alongside it. But I found it really, really interesting. And I do love me a bookish book. And Vida's story is a bit of a ghost story. It's a love of a sister. It's a tragedy. It's a lot of things. And I'm going to give this one 4 stars. And then the last thing that I read was F Your Diet and Other Things My Thighs Tell Me by Chloe Hilliard. Or Hilliard. Chloe is a comedian, but she wasn't always. Once upon a time, she was a journalist, but always she has struggled with her weight and has tried 1,000,001 diets, and nothing ever fully stuck. And this is really, really, really well written, and it's told in a way where it goes like all through Chloe's life. And, you know, we learn about her childhood and adolescence and sex and adulthood and being black in America and the job force and discrimination and all of these things. And also throughout, she's giving you all kinds of stats and statistics and really great information. And it's told in such an excellent way. I highly recommend it. Whether you struggle with food or your weight or anything like that, regardless of that, this is a great book to read, and I would definitely recommend it. I'm going to give this one 4 stars as well. So I lost track of how many books I've read this month. I stopped counting after like 14, though my thumbnail will say the full number. I know I read a lot. I want to say it was probably around 20 books this month, and I don't expect to do the same thing next month, but who knows? We'll see. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye.